Hello and welcome to Stories from the View, a podcast from the Pleasant View Senior Center in East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. On this podcast, we invite East Longmeadow residents to tell us their stories about their lives and events. And today's guest is Donna Salo from Veterans Dragon Boat USA. And here's your host for today, Ed Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Eric. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning.
So we met about, a month ago?
Correct.
On a Sunday morning at my daughter-in-law's farm. I was out there letting the chickens out of the coop. I turned around. You were there. You were there to deliver concrete pumpkins.
Correct.
And you told me the story about the concrete pumpkins. And then we talked about dragon boats. So it was a very unusual Sunday morning, actually.
You never know who you're going to meet at the farm.
That's right. So the pumpkins and the dragon boats have something in common, and that's the organization that you co-founded. And so why don't you tell us about that?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Veterans Dragon Boat USA is our nation's first sustained all-military competitive race team. About 8 or 9 years ago, I was asked to join a team of breast cancer survivors and supporters in Springfield, and I was immediately taken by the sport. Dragon boating itself is actually a 40-foot long canoe, if you may, and it seats 20 paddlers, 10 seats each, and dragon boating in itself is the fastest growing team water sport there is in our country. There's international competitions, Canada, everywhere you can imagine there are competitions. So we had this idea, my other captain of the team and myself, for years, always wanting to, and always thinking, why isn't there an all-military dragon boat team? Because the cadence that everybody has to paddle as one. Excuse me. So there was nothing, and we kept on writing letters, asking businesses could you support us? Because actually, a dragon boat costs $13,000, and we were coming from nothing. But we had our dream, and we had our passion for the sport. So after many years of trying to figure out how we were going to get the initial funding, I spied on Google a company in Michigan. It's called New Holland Brewery that was relaunching one of their beers. By happenstance, their beer is called Dragon's Milk. So we immediately thought, kismet. The whole marketing campaign evolved and revolved around a storytelling contest. So we're going to go for it. So I wrote a story about the other co-captain. She is the breast cancer survivor. I was the supporter. And we talked about the sport of dragon boating, but how we imagined a military division at all competitions. We wrote the story. Made a long story short, we won the story contest, and the initial prize was $5,000 cash. They asked us, because they were so taken by our story, what would you do if we doubled it? And we said, we'd put your name on our boat. So we had our $10,000. We quickly purchased a boat. Now, in dragon boating, it's a very ceremonial sport. They always have dragon scales on the side of the boat, very colorful. There's a dragon's head and a tail. But we wanted to make it special. We were so determined to create this team that we just purchased a white boat, a plain boat, with a dream of having a patriotic wrap. Long story short, we got our patriotic wrap by fundraising and whatnot, and it is a beautiful boat. Our intent was for any veteran stepping into that boat, we wanted them to be proud, to be not only unique, but to know that that was their boat. It has all the emblems of the service on the side, and currently we have all branches in our boat. It is hysterical to hear the Marines go after the Army go after the Air Force. The Navy said no one can tie a knot like a Navy person. So it is so enjoyable. It's an honor to be with these men and women. I grew up with my dad as a World War II pilot. So I have that understanding of to be very respectful of veterans.
So how many are in the organization? How many what do you call them, boaters or
Dragon boaters, yeah.
Okay.
Before COVID, we had probably around 24, 25. And again, with vets, it's very hard to pull them out of where they are to be together. We found, especially the younger ones. Before COVID, our age ranged from 28 to 72. During COVID, we lost a few, just like everybody did with their organizations. So now we're just building back up, and we have around 19. A full component of being in a dragon boat, you have to have 20 paddlers, minimum of 16 for most races, but you have 10 seats with 2 each. So we're always looking for new people.
How do people find you?
Actually, we always welcome people to hop in the boat, if nothing for a nice ride along the Connecticut River. And if you are a Marine, you love a Navy guy, paddling for you.
I'll be there.
There you are. And we actually row out of Holyoke Rows, which is Jones Ferry, on Jones Ferry Road in Holyoke. Okay. And we normally practice. Our season on the water is now ending. Our last race is October 14th in Springfield. But because it's getting darker out faster, we can't be on the water. We normally will practice from 6 to 7:15, 7:30. But now we'll be going into winter training, inside. We really believe in keeping this unit of veterans together full all year round.
So I was actually there a couple of weeks ago at the you were at the event there in Holyoke, right?
Oh, did you go to the regatta?
The regatta.
The regatta, yes.
I missed. I was too late though.
Yes.
You were there early.
Yes. Yeah.
So how does so there's a regatta that's coming up.
There is actually regattas are normally for rowers. That's in the sculls. Those are the longer boats. We have a dragon boat festival coming up October 14th, right near it's called Pioneer Valley River Conservancy, but it's right near the old Valley Steakhouse, the North End Bridge. So I think they said 26 teams, and we're one of them competing.
Okay. So what is, if somebody wants to go and watch it, they can show up and
they can give us a call. I do have the number. They can just give us the heads up that they'd like to just hop in the boat just to see what it's like.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it is. It's one of those things that we invite all veterans. And like I said, now even after COVID, now our age range is from 31 to 74, 75. The interesting thing is some of our older vets, they've started to have dementia. We still bring them in. They still can just sit in the back of the boat. Their experience is very important for the younger vets to hear, and they've really bonded well as a family. And even some of our fundraiser pumpkins, they may not be in the boat, but we bring the pumpkins to their house, and they sit and they sand, and they still feel part of. So it's real important that we attract.
So I guess it's time to talk about the pumpkins.
I love to talk about my pumpkins. I don't leave home without my pumpkins, just like my American Express card. So part of our mission, Anna and the other co-founder, we had made this agreement that any vet that shows up and becomes part of our team, everything is paid for. Unlike other dragon boat teams, it's an expensive sport. Our races will go from $1,500 to $2,000 just as an entry fee. Then you're talking about the boats, then the paddles, and the life jackets. So we're always looking for sponsors, but in the meantime, if we don't get sponsors, we don't stop trying to, raise money. And our fall fundraiser always has to do with our pumpkin challenge. And being on the Connecticut River, we see the beauty. It's just a beautiful river. You get to know the river, you get to know where the sandbanks are, you get to see the seasons. But when the river comes down midsummer, to fall, you start seeing things, the pollution, the things that have been carried down the river from flood, what people get rid of. So we were part of the Connecticut River Conservancy cleanup. And so we're walking along the shores, we're finding all this metal. Now, I have to add the caveat, I like to weld, so when I look at a piece of metal, I don't see trash, I see art. So we were picking up this metal, and I said, no, let's upcycle this to something that people can have, and maybe have a fundraiser over it. So we put our heads together. I love some of my vets who are the mechanics that were in the Army. They look at a piece of metal and go, okay, well, let's cut it here, let's cut it here. So what happens is we collect metal along the shores of the Connecticut River. It is amazing what you can find. And then my two main guys, Stan and Dan, both Army, will cut, weld. They start designing what they think. Some of the other vets will chime in. And they clean a lot of the rust off. They hand it to me. I create the cement pumpkins, put the metal in as a stock. Each pumpkin is unique in its own, as you've seen, Ed.
I have, yes.
And then we hand back the pumpkins, and they sand the cement down so it's nice and smooth. They shellac the metal. It's just a team effort. So we have created this year about 150 pumpkins, and we just, word of mouth, we sell our pumpkins, and the response has been amazing. This is the first year I put it in the East Long Meadow Forum, and the response of East Long Meadow has been heartwarming. I mean, I will go back to my team and just say, this is what happened. This is what happened. Your daughter, Ed, just bought 10 pumpkins, and it's very gratifying to these, because a lot of these vets, they don't ask for help. They are, no matter what their issue may be, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, they tend to try to figure it out all on their own. And to know that there's community support means so much to them. So that's our pumpkin challenge.
That's wonderful. Yes, they are very creative.
I love
was
those
amazed
pumpkins.
to see what pieces of metal were salvaged.
It's a great thing.
What are you charging for these concrete pumpkins?
These concrete pumpkins, actually, we're asking for a $25 donation. And the vets really firmly believe that you should get something in return. Our hands are just not out asking to help us, keep this team going. So for a $25 donation, they can choose, anybody can choose the type of pumpkin that they want. And the biggest compliment that we can get are people that stay a little bit too long. I usually sell them out of my home, or we'll go to farmer's market or Pomeroy's vegetable stand. And people just say, I can't make up my mind, which is the nicest compliment, I'm like, stay.
So someone listening to this,
Yes.
where they would go to Pomeroy's? Would that be
Actually, no, I'm done with Pomeroy's.
Okay.
They're welcome. I mean, I give my number out, my cell phone number, because I
Okay.
firmly believe in this. And
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to give that
Sure.
number. My
Yeah.
number is 544-1234. Very easy number to remember. And then, we can connect, and I'll take the pumpkins out, come over and see, and, go from there.
Wonderful. That's great. So, how long have you been living in East Longmeadow?
My husband and I moved here 27 years ago. We lived in Springfield. We had 2 young kids. We decided we wanted a school system beyond parochial that they offer in Springfield. Fell in love with friends who, lived in, East Longmeadow, and that's where we settled. Had 2 sons. Went through this East Longmeadow school system. The oldest one today is living in San Diego as a software engineer, but his company is based in Windsor, Connecticut. Again, a whole new world. The other one, my youngest one, lives in Boston, and he is a lunar module simulator software engineer. Wow. Which I don't have that much in common. I mean, my background is science. I taught an after-school science program in the East Longmeadow school systems. But it's over my head, but they're doing amazingly well.
That's wonderful.
I'm very proud of them.
Oh, I can imagine. Yes,
Very
it
proud.
looks like you are.
Yeah. Yeah, proud mama.
So you had mentioned you were a teacher when we first
Yes.
met. So the teaching that you did is
Yes.
Tell us.
Actually, my background is neurological research, and I was starting a PhD. My husband, unfortunately, had a fatal ski accident, so I had to walk away from my career. Now the focus was on the kids. So my first passion, second passion was dragon boating. My first passion is science. So I wanted to, as my kids were going through the school system, I saw how much the teachers had to teach so many different things. I knew my parte was science, and so I became the female version of Bill Nye. I would load my car up with beakers and cylinders and balances because I firmly believe that science, particularly with kids, has to be on hands-on. Because as I told my students, science is all around us. So you can look at anything and relate it back to science. But they have to be exposed to it in a fun way. So, for instance, I started in Mountain View or Meadowbrook when my younger son was in kindergarten. Thank God for the teachers who just allowed me to, use their classroom at the end of the day. I would have snacks, but my students would, instead of just drinks and snacks, we would have create your solutions to drink, because anytime you put a solid into a liquid, like coffee in the morning, their parents, they're creating a solution. So instead of like having Kool-Aid and making up your Kool-Aid, you're creating a solution. And if they wanted to have an extra cookie, I would say, sure, but tell me how many grams. So they would have to weigh the extra cookie that they wanted to eat. And it drove so many to use my scale. And then we would document how, are all double stuffed Oreos the same? No, we proved that. So it was hands-on. So I did that for 13 years. I culminated in a town-wide science fair at Birchland. And we had, I was called indefatigable, and I had to look up that word because I had seen a little snippet about the Sanford University engineers that were going cross-country in a van trying to introduce hands-on science. And they had a laser cutter and everything. And I'm like, I want you at my fair. So I wrote relentlessly to them. And they were going to all major museums. But then on their calendar, you see East Longmeadow, Massachusetts, school fair.
Wow.
So we had over 300 kids come to the fair. And I had, the state police with their robots, their bomb-sniffing robots, and I had the museums. I brought as much as I could to get these kids to go from one station to another and just have fun with science. So just did that for quite a few years, and then my passion on dragon boating started.
So is that it? Anything else that you get involved in?
No.
No.
I usually laser focus on one thing at a time and try to do it well.
Good.
That's how I was brought up.
So as far as the dragon boating, tell us again when the event is going to be taking place.
Our race is October 14th. It is at the, we call it the PVRC. It starts, I believe, at 8 o'clock, and it usually runs until 4. We will be competing with other club teams, and it's just a fun event. It's just a fun event. And a lot of businesses use this as a team building exercise. They get together and you have to paddle as one. We just take it one notch up, and we tend to be a little bit more serious.
Okay. So I did go to the regatta, but I got there late. You had already competed. At October 14th, is there a specific time when you?
They don't release the time date, the race date,
okay.
the race times, I should say, until maybe a day before, if they do that. So we are probably guaranteed 3 races.
Okay.
And our veterans are very excited. We do have this race in particular is very special to us. Normally, I'm the drummer. I tend to yell really loud when I take on a different persona. They say, my kids could probably vouch for that, But this race in particular, 2 months ago, we were asked to go to a fundraiser for a mom, a Gold Star mom, who lost her son. She was starting a awareness program for mental health awareness with vets. She and I just clicked. I just asked her, would you like to be our drummer for our race? Because to me, and the original date of our race had to be canceled in Springfield because the river conditions were too high and they weren't safe. So I asked Karen to be our drummer. I will train you, but in my mind, as a Gold Star mother in front of 20 vets, baying the drum, telling them to stay timing, I thought it was symbolically a beautiful thing. Unbeknownst to me, our original date of our race happened to be her son's birthday.
Oh my God.
Which I just thought, oh my God, this is another kismet. You know, like, how do you celebrate your son's life, but to be involved with veterans? So she's going to be drumming. So I'm thrilled for Karen, just because it is something she is so passionate about, helping veterans now. And now she's going to be in front of this group of veterans. So it's wonderful.
That is
Wonderful. I love that. And we have dreams of actually in Western Mass, there's not a lot of things that honor Gold Star moms. So part of our job going forward is to bring more Gold Star mothers together to highlight who they are. And again, it's different for me because I grew up with my uncles being in World War II and my cousins being in Vietnam. A lot of people now, there's only 1% of the population who are veteran, or who serve, actually. So you tend to be very disconnected to what a veteran is and those who step forward. So that's pretty much how we want to, go and expand who we are.
So you have a website.
Yes, we do.
And what is the website?
Yes, I will give you the website. Actually, it's veteransdragonboat.usa. I'm sorry, veteransdragonboatusa.com.
Okay. And Facebook?
Yes, we are
You're
on the same
Facebook?
Veterans Dragon Boat. Please look us up. We are thrilled. We also do a lot for older vets. We make care packages and we give them those. And that's pretty much, my uncle was under George Patton and made 5 major battles. He would tell me that when they got care packages, they would put them in the tank tracks. So they would come back and open their packages. Well, I remembered that. And so now we create care packages for shut-in elder veterans. So
That's wonderful.
please check us out.
True. And the pumpkins again, if someone's interested, they call you.
Yes, 544-1234. Yes, we would be honored. We love. It's also a way for our team to tell our story. And I think we have amazing stories in our boats from young to old. And it's just an honor being with them.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm going to be there October 14th.
Thank you.
To watch.
Thank you.
Maybe someday.
We'll get you in that boat.
Get in the boat, yes.
It's a great sport.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Donna.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Donna. Yeah, we appreciate you being here today. That wraps up another episode of Stories from the View. The podcast is available on the LCAT 1028 channel on YouTube and on Spotify. If you have a story you'd like to share on the program, contact Pleasant View Senior Center Director Aaron Kobler by stopping by the Pleasant View Senior Center or by calling Aaron at 413-525-5436, extension 1401, or you can send Aaron an email, aaron.kobler@eastlongmeadowma.gov. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Stories from the View.